the room that wasn't on the map. The night I learned the hotel had a room that didn't exist, the elevators were broken, and the marble lobby smelled like rain. I stood with a paper cup of coffee that had surrendered its heat to the air and watched the concierge pretend the city wasn't flooding through the revolving door. We were a boutique property with a famous rooftop bar, a rumor of secret tunnels, and a scandal blooming on the front page of every local blog. I had been brought in to contain the scandal. That's my profession. I manage fires by learning how they started and who was holding the match. I'm Daniel, 34, Crisis PR, which is a polite way to say I write fairy tales for adults with lawyers. I was engaged to Anna, smart, steady, a dentist who never said the word content like a prayer. My ring was on a chain around my neck because I told myself it was safer that way when I traveled. That was true. It was also a lie that sounded like safety. My client for the week was the owner of the hotel, Victor Armand, silver hair, eyes the color of new ice, a suit that learned your secrets while you asked the rate for a standard king. On Monday morning he shook my hand and said, "We have a leak." I thought he meant the roof. He meant the list, our guest list, which included politicians and actors and one tech billionaire whose marriage was allergic to sunlight. Someone was selling names and dates to a gossip site that paid well for the private lives of people in public. "Find them," Victor said, as if it were simple, "and make the story stop breathing." The first time I saw Mara, she was not the kind of woman who volunteered information. She was the bar manager, which meant she could reduce men to courteous silence without raising her voice. She wore black like a uniform and a scar at her wrist that looked like a hyphen. When I asked for still water, she slid it across the wood and said, "You don't drink when you work." "I drink when I win," I said. "I'm out of practice." "You're in the wrong hotel then." Her mouth did a small knot smile. "We're designed for mistakes." I learned things quickly because hotels are cities with shorter attention spans. The leak was not coming from housekeeping or the front desk. It wasn't the night auditor who spoke in numbers. It wasn't the door staff who flirted with the world and meant it. It was either someone with access to the reservation system or someone who could reach a second system most staff didn't know existed. A private ledger of special requests that never touched the public network. On the second day, it rained so hard the rooftop bar closed, and the lobby turned into an aquarium of umbrellas. I found Mara in the service corridor with a tray of rescued candles. "You're everywhere," she said. "It's part of the act," I said. "If I move enough, people assume I'm useful." She tilted her head. "You aren't just PR, are you?" "I'm whatever the person with the invoice needs." "And what do you need?" That question landed like a dropped key. I didn't answer. She didn't press. She slid a single candle into my hand. "For luck," she said. "And because power goes out in this building when the city remembers we built it on top of a river." That night the power did go out, not all at once but in a ripple that ran from the rooftop to the boiler room like a rumor. In the half-dark I learned the hotel's bones, the smell of wet concrete, the hum of an old chiller, the way the hallway carpets drank sound. I also learned there was a door on the fourth floor with no number, set into the wall like a secret that had been painted over and called art. It shouldn't have been there. Our map said the corridor ended with a linen closet. The door had a keycard slot with a green LED that pulsed like a heartbeat. I'm not brave, I'm curious. It's a personality defect that looks like courage in good lighting. I tried my master access card and the green light blinked red, then back to green like a flirtation. Someone laughed behind me. Mara. She held a flashlight under her chin. "This is where you pretend you weren't thinking what you were thinking," she said. What was I thinking? That you want to know what's behind it. Do you? I already know. She took the flashlight away from her face. Without the underlighting, she was less ghost story and more something I couldn't categorize. I also know you shouldn't be the one to learn it with me, but it looks like you're going to. How do you? She pressed an apology into my palm in the form of a key card, older than the ones we used now, a laminate with a hairline crack across the corner. I didn't give this to you, she said. You found it in a place where you shouldn't have been. Her voice went quieter. And if you use it, you will learn something that turns you into someone else. The lock admitted us with a soft mechanical sigh. The door opened onto a room that was technically not a room. It was a mirror of the suite next door, but thinner by 3 feet, as if the architect had drawn a straight line and then a secret one inside it. A single long window watched the city from the wrong angle. There was a couch, a camera on a tripod, a small desk, a stack of envelopes addressed in different hands. I exhaled. This looks like a set. It is, Mara said, not for movies. For confessions. For leverage. I flipped the camera's screen. It showed the frozen frame of a man I recognized, the tech billionaire with the marriage to daylight. He was sitting where I was standing now, running his hand over his face like he wanted to erase it. A woman crossed the corner of the frame and disappeared. There was no audio. I pressed a button and the screen stayed stubbornly still. It's not recording. It records when the motion sensor thinks a performance is interesting. Mara leaned against the thin wall like she could feel the suite next door breathing. Don't worry, we're not interesting. Define we. She glanced at the door. You should decide soon whether I'm an accomplice or a witness. Which do you want to be? The one who gets to leave. She guided me to the desk and the stack of envelopes. Inside each was a card with a date, a name, and either a phone number or a sum. Numbers when the room had been used to make a deal, sums when it had been used to break one. This wasn't a leak. It was a river and someone had been selling tickets. Who runs this? I asked, because if it's Victor. It is, she sounded sure. He's many things, but he's a believer in consent when consent is profitable. Her mouth did that not smile again. And this is riskier than his taste. Then who else has this much access? Mara didn't answer. She lifted the bottom envelope and handed it to me. My name wasn't on the card, my fiancé's was, not her full name, the version only people who knew her in university used. Next to it a date from 3 weeks ago. Next to that no sum. A phone number. My throat tightened. This is a coincidence. You know it is. Mara's voice was soft. People put different selves into hotels. The world is full of names that belong to more than one person, but the number next to hers belongs to exactly one. I didn't dial it. I didn't need to. It was Anna's old phone, the number she kept because her mother still used it, because it felt like a thread to a younger life. I closed my hand around the card until the corner pressed a triangle into my skin. It doesn't have to be what you think, Mara said. Sometimes people come here to say no. Do they get recorded while they say it? Sometimes. We locked the door behind us like the act mattered. In the service corridor, the night felt narrower. I said, "How did you get that card?" People forget that bartenders serve more than drinks. She shrugged. I hear things. I watch too much. I keep a key or two for when I need to prove that I am right and still be sad about it. Why show me? Because you are the person hired to stop the bleeding, she said, and because I wanted to see what truth does to your face. I didn't sleep. At 4 a.m. I watched rain make lace out of the streetlights and decided I could still be the man I thought I was if I behaved as if that man already existed. At 7, I met Victor in his office. I told him there was a room. I told him there were envelopes. I did not tell him about Anna. He listened without interrupting, a sign of either respect or a good education in appearing respectful. "Who?" he said when I finished. "Someone who knows your maps," I said. "Someone who believes rooms are instruments." His gaze fell to my ring on its chain, then returned to my face. "Will you keep working for me after you find them?" "If you shut the room," I said, "and if you let me break their hand on the way out." He smiled, quick and thin. "I don't break hands," he said. "I buy them, but I can make an exception." By noon, I knew more. The reservation system logged maintenance entries separately. Cross-reference that with minibar stock and you could see which rooms were touched when no one checked out. The second system, the private ledger, wasn't on the network at all. It sat on a laptop in a manager's office that locked with a real key and a complacent belief in habit. The laptop told me the room existed under a designation that sounded like a joke: mirror service. It also told me who had created the file 6 years ago under a different general manager, in a different era of greed. The creator was gone. The person who had updated it weekly, who renamed guest codes with care, who added notes in a spare hand that never wrote an adjective, was not gone. Her name was Nadia. She ran banquets. She was efficient the way gravity is efficient. She had the keys to everything food touched and a smile that made you want to apologize for taking up her time. I confronted her in the empty ballroom that still smelled of last night's perfumes. "You should let this go," she said after 5 words. "You won't like the ending." "That's the thing about endings," I said. "They aren't required to impress me." She folded her hands. "You think you're saving lives. You're saving a man's reputation and a hotel's rumor. The room exists because men who talk about privacy mean secrecy they can afford. Then you charge them for it." "I let them pay the price they already came to pay." She didn't flinch. "And I make sure the staff can keep rent when the owner cuts hours. I am a thief, Daniel, but I steal upward." "You also sell downward when it suits you," I said, thinking of names on cards, of smaller sums that looked like groceries and a month of daycare. "You sell anyone who forgets to be ordinary." Her jaw tightened. "You want to ask me for the ledger," she said. "Ask." "I want the ledger," I said. "No," she said, "because then the hotel won't need you, and you'll stop pretending you came here to help anyone but yourself." "You're not wrong about why I come to places like this," I said, "but you're wrong about what I do once I'm here." She gave me a look that said she enjoyed playing chess with men who thought in checkers. "Armand won't fire me," she said. "I know where the bodies are, the actual ones. No, but the reputation stacked in closets. Enough." "Then I'll make it worth your while," I said, and I hated how easily the script came to my tongue. "You give me the ledger, we make the room disappear. You get 3 months severance and a letter that makes you glow." "I have letters," she said. "They are worth less than cash and less than sleep." "What do you want?" She thought for a beat. "A transfer," she said, "to the other hotel, the one by the river, same salary, less night, and you shut mirror service and pretend it was an electrical closet." "Done." "You don't have that power." "I do for the next 12 hours, I said, "while everyone is too afraid of the fire to ask who's holding the hose." We shook on a deal that shouldn't have been mine to make. She handed me a USB drive like a priest sliding a relic across the altar. "If they come for me, I will say you coerced me," she said, "and it will be true." "I'm not here to save you," I said. "I'm here to stop the story." "You always are," she said. "This is why we never say your names on the plaques." By 6, the room didn't exist. The keycard reader went blank. The lock became a rectangle of tape. The map regained its confidence. I handed Victor the ledger and used small words to tell him what he owed his staff. He read in silence and then did something I didn't expect. He thanked me like he meant it. "I will deny we had this conversation," he said, "and I will fix what I can afford to fix." "What about what you can't afford?" He looked out the window where the rain had become a performance about redemption. "I will try to want to afford it," he said. "It's a start." I found Mara on the rooftop when the clouds finally opened their palms. The bar was closed, but she stood at the railing and watched the city shine. "You look like someone who set down a heavy bag," she said. "I made a room disappear," I said. "It'll come back somewhere, they always do." She studied me. "And your face?" "My face. You still have the question in it." I took the card with Anna's name out of my pocket. I hadn't called. Cowardice masquerades as strategy when you're good at words. "Tell me it's not what it looks like," I said, and hated how much I needed her to say the sentence even though I didn't believe in it. "It could be many things," Mara said. "A meeting, a dare she said no to, a curiosity she starved, or a yes she regrets. Which one would you forgive?" She didn't answer. She stepped closer, close enough that the gold scent of her skin did a small, dangerous thing to the air between us. "You don't have to decide tonight," she said, "but you do have to decide." I wanted to be faithful to a version of me that didn't need a stranger's approval to remain intact. I also wanted to press my mouth to the place under Mara's ear where a pulse made the skin warm. I did neither. I put the card back in my pocket and leaned my forearms on the railing and let the wind take the next word out of my mouth. For a long time we said nothing. Silence is its own kind of intimacy. YouTube would approve. When she finally spoke, it was almost a whisper. "I'm married," she said. "I hadn't known. He lives 2 cities away. We are better at distance than at breakfast. We haven't decided what that means." "Thank you for telling me," I said, and I meant it more than most things I'd said that week. She smiled, tired and real. "I'm not telling you to push you away," she said. "I'm telling you so we don't trip over the wrong story." We stood like that until the storm forgot us. When we reached the stairs, she touched the chain at my throat, the ring that wasn't on my hand. Her fingers were cool. "Still there?" she asked. "Still," I said. Down in the lobby, the concierge practiced being unruffled. A bellhop balanced luggage and a roomer. Victor walked by without looking at me. Nadia disappeared into an office with a new nameplate. The city smelled like something had been cleaned with citrus and hope. I didn't call Anna that night. I called her in the morning in daylight. I asked her if she had been at the hotel with the second door. I didn't mention cameras or cards. She said a name I knew, an old friend who was in town for a conference, a man whose laugh I had always disliked. She said she wanted to see who she was when I wasn't looking. She said she hadn't done anything she'd call a sin in a church, but she had enjoyed the attention in a way she couldn't explain to me without making me smaller. I listened until the line went quiet. Then I said, "We can decide who we are now, or we can let the hotel decide for us." She cried. I did not. "We said we'd try. Try is a room with 2 doors. You never know which you'll use until you reach for the handle." Before I left, Mara sent me one message. "If you ever need a room that does exist, ask for 412. It has terrible art and a couch that forgives you." I smiled like a man who knows the shape of his own mistakes and still walks toward the part of the map that is drawn in pencil. At the airport, I put the ring back on my finger, not as a declaration, as a project plan. The plane took off through the last of the rain, and the city dropped away like a secret that had finally been told. A week later, I woke at 3 a.m., sure I heard a door click in my apartment. There was no one there. just the echo of a hallway in a hotel that pretends it has no ghosts. I lay back down and pictured the room that wasn't on the map and the woman who found me outside it and the ledger that measured the price of being human in neat columns. I thought about the question Mara didn't answer, what I would forgive, and understood that forgiveness is a password that changes when you say it out loud. In the morning, I wrote the report that made the scandal stop breathing. I wrote it like a fairy tale for adults with lawyers. The lesson at the end wasn't neat. It rarely is. But I kept one line for myself in the margin where no one reads. Some rooms disappear because they're dangerous, others because we are. I closed the file and the city put on a new day. And somewhere a bartender lit a candle for luck. And somewhere a door that didn't belong to anyone closed softly and stayed closed, at least until the next person with something to hide came looking for a mirror.